Hello, everybody. So I'm quite excited because our very next guest is someone who truly believes in the power of people. He is someone who hails from Gaborone in Botswana, and he is someone who's brought me some of my most inspirational people. He's a motivational speaker, a life coach, and he is the CEO of the Progressive Institute. Mmoloki, he is someone who brought me, wait for it, drum roll, please, the incredible Prof. Lumumba and a number of prolific speakers from all over the continent gathered in the country of Botswana to talk all about development. Ladies and gentlemen, Mmoloki. Hello.
Hello. How are you, Vumi? How are you doing? Yes. Let's
Good.
get
Dumelang.
yes. You need
I'm so
some
excited.
Setswana lessons.
I do, right?
I'll
My Zulu
definitely
is bad.
you need to come
Um,
back to Botswana so that I can, I just take you through this whole Setswana speaking course.
that will make a big difference, right? So my people in Botswana can respect me and I can be a Botswana. Why are you thinking?
By the way, last time you did go on radio. You did do a radio show in Botswana. What did
Yes,
that
I do.
happen?
Do my FM. I've got my stuff going through, but
Yes.
thank goodness I've got my kind Botswanas who translate for me because my Zulu accent is not good.
Yes, I remember when you came here, you did do a radio feature. No, thank you so much. Yes,
So I know the kind of man you are. You overextend yourself to ensure that people in SADC are actually exposed to the best thinkers on the continent and indeed the world. But I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So we're going to do a quick fire round of questions where I will ask you and you tell me which one you prefer. Are you ready?
yes, that's fine. Yes.
Would you prefer to go to the beach or go to the bush?
I am the beach type of person. I'm a diver, Vumi. Remember, I was in Bazaruto Island, for December, so for my vacation. So I can tell you all the number of beaches around I've been to. Plenty of them. I've traveled as far as
Yes.
so I'm your Devon type of guy.
I love it. Loving my hometown. Would you
That's
prefer
the
Android or Apple?
I'm still stuck with Android for some reasons. I don't know, and I don't know whether I'm unfashionable because people say, like the other day, somebody was like, "Look, why don't you have an iPhone?" Even up to now, I was like, I'm your Android type of guy. Yes,
So you're definitely loyal. I like that. Tea or
I'm very
coffee?
loyal. Yes, coffee. Yes,
Okay. Morning or night?
I prefer morning. My day started around 4:30, sometimes 5. So yes, I'm that type of a guy. Yes.
So this is going to be difficult because I know you're both.
Yes.
Entrepreneur or corporate?
You know what? I'm a perfect entrepreneur. So you know what? That was my past. Now I'm your profits type of guy. I talk money in Kulume Imali.
Chelete. What a chelete.
I want the bottom line. The bottom line.
I love it. I love it. Kindle or a good old fashioned book?
Yes, that would be a good old fashioned book for me. Yes.
Okay. And I'm
Yes.
interested to know Sunday, seven colors, dinner, beetroot, butternut, rice, or braai.
Sunday, that would be bright for me. Actually, we are working on our restaurant. Like after traveling so much, we're inspired by so many things that we have seen. Like, your EAD. I've been to a couple of places in South Africa, Mozambique, Swaziland, where I experienced some eatery. So I wanted to bring the experience home. So for me, I'm your Seshanyama type of person. So that would
I
be me
love,
on a Sunday.
I love that. So this is, I
Mm.
think this is what a lot of people I know, a lot of Mutswanas are going to now listen carefully for this one. You are having a
Yes.
dinner. Anybody, you can invite
Yes.
anybody, dead or alive. Who is coming and what are you going to eat?
Uh, anybody. So I should just pick one person that would definitely come.
Any, you can pick 5 people if you want, or 10 people. Anybody.
For me, that would be my mother. I because my mother used to have this books like when she was in London, when she came from school around the early 90s. She brought a lot of content on cookery, da and stuff. So I grew up, with so much interest in that. So she would be the type of person that would say, okay, what's next? So what are you cooking today? So she would be the person that looks forward to my meals. And obviously, my sister Atarlang, because at the end of the day, that's the person that would clean the house. Like any mess that I cause, Atarlang is the type that would just clean. So because
I
that's the
like
part I
that
don't
you're
like,
always
having
thinking,
to
you
clean.
think about the mess already.
You see. So yes, and obviously Tompa is my daughter. So Tompa always looks forward to daddy's meals and stuff. So she's 9 years old. So yeah, these are the people that come into my mind.
I love it. I love how you're thinking very practically as to what's going to happen after
Yeah.
this meal. I love it. Thank you so much. So, Mmoloki, I've had the privilege of engaging you and seeing what you do on ground. And what you are literally blessed with the ability to do is shift the minds of people. You help us think differently. And you've done this across
Mm.
Southern, SADC, across the Southern African developing countries. But I want
Yes.
to know, who are you? So, tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Yes. So Vumi, if I can tell you something, you see, the professional life of any young person in Africa, it's more or less a similar script, where you go out, you get your degree, and you're gonna look for a job and stuff like that. Fine, that is okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you see, sometimes you grow up seeing or being exposed to what happens around the people around you. Like, for instance, my mother went to London in 89. She was studying architect. And she used to tell me, in fact, that was when she was like about to retire. She was like, my son, I went to London, went to University of, Greenwich, your top universities out there. I was the first woman in this, first in that. But I am the person that never had the guts to actually say, I mean, apart from working, what is it that I can do for myself as a woman? I mean, can I start my own business and stuff like that? So she always had that regret, of like, yes, I got the education, then what? So Muluki for me then became a better version of saying I was able to tap into my mother's experiences where I grew up, went to university. I started my high school in Zimbabwe. At the time, Zimbabwe education had very good, in fact, it was very good, and most Botswana who could afford, send their kids there,
Most Africans
and
could
we all
afford
went.
Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Yes, you understand. So I did go there and, came to University of Botswana, UB, then got my first degree, went to work for local municipality, then went to work for two of Botswana's biggest parastatals. That's your ESCOM, then your Water Utilities Corporation. So I did exceedingly very well. I mean, like I had the roles, I had the privileges, and so for me, that the kind of work that we are exposed to then define the person that you actually manifest into. Like I then
Mhm.
went into HR, and HR for me was very easy to relate because I'm a people's person. So I would say I'm that type of a person, at least from my work experience. And also, I'm a brother to my 3 sisters. I'm a father to my daughter, and I'm a son to my mother. I lost my dad, about 2 years ago. So Muluki is this person that then, when I said I want to become an entrepreneur, as you put it, I then, wanted to be all out, enjoy my life, and optimize my skills. And I had to really say, what am I good at? And for me, I had to identify those skills. And clearly, I am now an owner of a company that for 5 years has been running Progressive Institute. And I'm glad that we are going to talk much about it. Yeah. But basically, that's who I am.
So it's interesting for me because you've literally transitioned from, corporate exposure from your mom, to what the thinking from all over the world and bring it into Botswana and indeed, SADC. And every career goes like this, right? There are peaks
Mm.
and there are pits. There are mountains
Yes,
and there are valleys. What have been some
yes.
of your highest moments and what have been some of your lowest moments and what have been the lessons from both?
You see, like obviously from the corporate perspective, one thing that I've learned, and unfortunately, some of these things that we actually get to experience, we may not have a chance to correct them, or at least, but you see, every experience that you go through makes you a better person. So clearly, you may not have the chance to go back and make those corrections, but in your next life challenges, there will be challenges and opportunities, and you'll deal with them differently. So for me, I one thing that I can tell you before I just move on to this one is that I felt that I moved into entrepreneurship very late. But that was precisely because I noticed, Vumi, that you see, when you have a very good job, at least in the context of Botswana, you would have a house, you have a nice car. Sometimes that can be all, because you have a car that, some people would obviously envy and stuff like that. You have a house that is very decent. So sometimes you then forget yourself. I would say you are caught into that trap where you
Mm,
literally say, okay,
those
I'm
golden
okay.
handcuffs.
You understand? But I was very fortunate that then my last role was a contract role. So being a contract role, it gave me an opportunity that when the contract ended, I had a chance to say, do I need it or not? So for me, it was a defining moment. I had to make the difficult decision to say, but look, if I'm just gonna get this X amount, why can't I just go and try whatever I want to do? And that was in 2016, and Progressive Institute obviously became into reality. And I went out there. But one thing that I can say is that even if when you have the payout, Vumi, when you are practical about things, you realize that the money sometimes is not a solution because you don't have the right
Oh,
skills. You don't have the right skills. You have the money, so the money is just gonna like go out of your hand like so far quick that you don't know how it all started. So it's a very natural process. So what then happened was that I was very much there's a point where obviously business was still, and in most cases, and I've heard Mark Zuckerberg say this, where he was like, sometimes when you start your business, you may not have a clear indication of the type of business you will end up doing. It will perfect itself with time. Like
mm,
when they started Facebook, clearly they didn't know what would be, whether it would end up to the Facebook that we see today. Because sometimes you have an idea, and maybe it's even 5% of the what would then translate into something. You understand? So for me, I actually saw that, and that meant that I had to go through so many changes, transformations. Would make the money, would lose the money. Sometimes we would create products and where they're not priced right. And sometimes you think, yes, you have got it, you have made the money, and then you find yourself having to maybe, let's say, borrow to people that are not very deserving, and it affects the business cash flow and everything. So, in 2017, we had, we had to pay this and that. For me, it's not a nice thing having to have to deal with people that you owe, and but that's the reality of business. You have calls from this one and so forth because you have borrowed someone money, they have not returned it. It's a lot of money. So, but I always say to people, allow that to happen to you because it perfects you. And that's when you then realize, look, this is how the ultimately my product should look like. This is what I can now do moving forward to diversify my product. I need a mentor. There's someone who can now guide me and so forth. So basically, that's what I can say.
I love that. I love that, the fact that you were able to recognize that you at times didn't even know the next step, let alone the
Yes.
next amount of people that you needed. So I'm curious to know, we're both coaches, and I love this question because we value personal development and we value the insights of others. Do you have a personal career advisory board? And who, like, does it consist of mentors, coaches, sponsors? And what has been their best piece of advice?
You see, I honestly do. I always tell people that, you see, attitude is what sustains who we are and the type of people we are. Attitude. When you have the right attitude, you'll always open yourself to learning. You may have all the paper qualification, but you may not have the wisdom to interpret and do things in a way that is actually different. So for me, I've always been this guy that is very humble, who appreciates that I do not have a monopoly of knowledge. So clearly, the things that I'm trying to do right now,
Well,
someone,
sort of. Did you hear that? Admit the fact that you do not have a monopoly on knowledge. I. Please continue, sir.
yes, yes, thank you so much. So that made me realize that, you see, learning starts when you open up yourself to other people that came before you. And I remember once one guy once said, in fact, I once wrote to someone, he said, you know what? The few success stories of inspirations have to be shared so that those that are coming should learn from them. Meaning that we are a generation that is much better, because before us were people who made mistakes. So we should avoid the same mistakes. So for me, I have such people that, it's different people, and it might not be so much coordinated or whatever, but these are people that I have access to and have, conversations that are very much a part of my life. But you see, I remember there's a gentleman called Stuart White. Stuart White is a white guy and South African, and he started this company in Botswana and he's been here for some time. Stuart used to say, Mmoloki, I've seen the quality of conferences that you host, but trust me, if the same amount of money, for the same product that you offer, if you were to double your price or make it thrice, people will still pay. You see,
Mm.
that was actually the turning point of our business. You see, majority of times, Vumi, as entrepreneurs, we undercharge our products. We may
Mm.
think we are not good enough. So sometimes we need third-party validation. We want someone who says, look, you are good enough. You can charge this much. When Stuart said that to us, I remember we're charging about 3,000 for our conferences. And we did try it. We went to almost 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. And like the response was even overwhelming. He said, why? Because I was demonstrating to you that once the quality is good, people chase the quality, not the price.
So people might not know this. So I have had the honor of going to one of Muluki's conferences. I flew in because like Patrice Lumumba is going to be there in real life. I'm flying in. He literally
Yes.
has people from all over the globe flying in purely because of the kind of thought leadership that happens. And Botswana is a beautiful country, but it's not known for its HR humanity leadership. And you are changing the face of that. You're like, yes, we've got Okavango. Yes, we've got a beautiful country, but we've got more than that. We've got some of the leading edge when it comes to what should be happening in the world of work. So I tip my
Yes.
hat off to you, and I'm so glad you took that advice.
No, I trust me. You see, Vumi, education is universal. The university that you are exposed to are the same university. You probably went to a university in South Africa. I was in Stellenbosch. I was at the University of Botswana. I was in Stellenbosch University. So our our orientation is more or less the same. So therefore, this is a challenge to us to say the solution that we provide should be global solutions. So when we went to establish Progressive Institute, when I went to establish that, and I wanted to tap into the MICE industry, your conferences, your events, because I had been exposed to global conferences. And I was like, if there is one thing that I was able to do was to bring people together, not only to listen to, but just to, be exposed to an experience that will actually change the way they look at life. I wanted to change the narrative that, we always have to wait for someone to come and do this for us. You see, and I always tell people that sometimes when you are struggling with what to do, you must look back and say, what was I good at university, at primary? And you see, when I was at the University of Botswana, I served in the student council. I was the Minister of Entertainment and Culture. So that was the time when it was Musekesik was coming up, Brown Dash,
Yes.
Mapapuzi
Yes.
was were big friends.
You're
So
exposing
I
our age. We're
remember,
looking exposing our age.
yes. So at the time, it meant that we I had the privilege to organize this your freshers ball, your student festivals and stuff. So I would go to South Africa, I would meet some of these executives to organize these events. And for me, if I can put together this big artist under one roof, what is it that I cannot do? You understand? So clearly there's a demonstration that we are skilled enough. Maybe we just have to make a reflection of our skills so that we know what we are able to do. So to me, that was a manifestation of maybe the events that I ended up doing and looking at the opportunities that were existing. Because Botswana is has got great facilities that would, and we are very peaceful. People always want to listen to our story as a country, and therefore any conference that you host would attract any type of leader wherever they are. So for me, I need to tap into that. You understand? And so,
I
yeah,
love that.
that's why we are where we are.
I love that. And I'm very privileged. So I'm in a WhatsApp group that you started where you literally
Yes.
bring some of the best minds who work with human capital across the globe. And one of the things that for me that's been prolific that you've done is you are so quick to teach and share.
Mm.
And I know this is going to be a tough question for you, but one of the things you're always sharing are great books, great inserts from books. If you had to choose your top 5 books, what would they be and why?
Yes, you see, Vumi, clearly we get inspiration from a lot of things. And trust me, majority of us, we have been so much exposed, but it's now time for us to be very action oriented. Vumi, you are not going to break the poverty or whatever that you may face, as challenges, and you're never going to blame someone for your own, you know, uh, things that you do have control over. You understand? If you want to go to Cape Town, buy a ticket, go to Cape Town. Nowadays, there's nothing like, yo, I need to check this and that and so. No, 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 no. We are, unfortunately, we are exposed to that. So it's very important to actually find yourself getting inspiration to people that have said, we have tried this. And it's so, nothing is as inspiring as knowing that some of the biggest stories in the world are people that are still living. For instance, I read a book called The Three Kings. The Three Kings, that is, it talks about Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, and Puff Daddy. You see, those guys have actually changed the narrative in the business world. They've inspired a whole generation into the way things should be done. So for me, this book has actually re-energized and globalized my ambition to say, look, to Botswana is a small market. What next? What are you up to? So I tend to be very radical sometimes. So I've read a book called I Write What I Like. That's
Ah,
I write what I like.
Steve.
Steve Biko. You see, being a radical. So such kind of books actually they kick that element of you that should actually create action and movement. You know, all this, legends or people that created history or a part of history, in whatever you may talk about, whether you're talking about, politics in Brazil, politics in Venezuela, in Africa, whether you're talking about Agostino Neto in politics, African politics, South African politics, you know, the motivation, the inspiration is the same. People want to change the status quo. So clearly, for me, I write what I like. I mean, Steve Biko is Nathan, and that should go with dinner with Mugabe. You see, Mugabe is a
He was a
clearly he had
radicalist.
his
He
own.
shifted how things happen. Yeah.
Yes, that clearly he was in a league of his own, and sometimes we we have to read deeper into understanding the issues before we can make conclusions about maybe how people's legacies, you understand, much as sometimes it leaves a lot to be desired. But the fact of the matter is that at least let's find justification why that could be some of the actions that our past leaders had to take. Because if you look at Nelson Mandela, for instance, there are those who would say, no, he was a traitor, he was a what? Because we are never part of that. You understand? But let's
Mm-hmm.
reflect, and so that we can own the black
Learn
story,
the lessons
you
retrospectively.
understand,
Mm.
of those stories, why and so forth. I was reading The Shoe Dog. Shoe Dog, that's Phil Knight. That's the Nike guy.
Ah, I love that book.
You understand? So
Nike. Mm.
clearly, like I said, when I said some of the stories are still living stories, these are people who are still alive.
Mm.
You know, and I remember when, who was that? Was it Magic Johnson or whatever, who said, there's a point where he had to make a decision whether to be signed by Nike or Converse. At the time, he chose Converse. I don't know. I'm failing to remember who that was. Because Converse was the biggest at the time. But had he signed with Nike, he would have become a shareholder, and he would have been part of, he'd be a billionaire. So sometimes it's always nice to see that history is created even right in our face.
Mm.
You might find that Nelson Mandela is normal, but we are proud of the fact that he lived during our times.
Mm.
He was there. So, by the time history is written, at least that will be the time when we are alive. So that's that. Then
Ladies and
lastly,
gentlemen,
there's a
that
book
one
called
me.
lastly
Yeah.
there's a book called God is My CEO. It's always important to create, a balance with your spirituality in terms of your spirit, because nothing is as amazing as doing business, or at least your aspirations being aligned to your values. And I always tell young people that this world is just so amazing that there is still an opportunity for honest entrepreneurs, people who just want to do things the right way.
Mm.
you know so we should always have values that ground us, that tells us that, much as there are hardships and so forth, but as you knock on people's doors, just know that the right door is the one that will speak to your values.
Mm.
Not a door that says pay this bribe, not a door that says this, that. No, 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 no. The door that would say, look, I believe in your values and in your product, and I'm going to support you. That's the. So Christianity is very critical, because we are definitely going to succeed in what we are doing. We are going to be whatever we aspire for. But Vumi, we need to embrace the core values of growth. I remember when who was this guy? This American broadcaster, comedian, was this guy, this 65-year-old one, the one that has a show. Sometimes it comes to
Steve
Botswana.
Harvey.
uh, Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey said, I'm grateful that I have money now when I'm old. I can tell you, if I had money when I was 30, I would have blew it. I would
Mm.
have messed it. So sometimes God gives us things that we have to be ready for. Otherwise, we are just going to. So it is always important to have a balance of your natural talent and the values that should make you the person that you want to become. Yes.
I cannot think of a better way to wrap up our session than the ability to be authentic, learn from others, and know that history is being written as we are living and breathing. Mmoloki, to wrap up our session, a rapid fire closing. This time I'd like you to end the sentence. I am a master of.
I'm a master of bringing people together for me. I'm the type that would fill any room with people, like-minded people. I believe that it's a natural gift. So clearly at any given time, I'll do that. Yes.
I've seen that. I've seen that, so I believe that.
Yes.
What I know for sure is.
What I know for sure is that I'm talented. Any journey starts with you appreciating the uniqueness of your personality, of your character, of everything about you. Then you would know that there's a point, there's a gap that you are feeling. You are not accidental. There's a solution that you need to bring to the table. And there are people that, if you do not do what you are doing, they'll never benefit. There are people who would feel like something is missing if you're not doing whatever that you have to do.
I love that. My life's work is.
My life's work is that for me. Wait, what is that? Give me an example. What is that?
What is your purpose? Why did God create you? What is your life's work?
Yeah, Vumi, I have this thing that I always say. I was never born to be a rich man. I don't chase wealth. Trust me, my fulfillment, my contentment comes from, seeing people reach their goals. Nothing is so, I find for me, and I wouldn't say like I'm much of a coach, career coach like you guys are, because you are doing so well into it. For me, I'm just that natural person. I happen to be there, you know, and whether it translates into that, then let it be. You understand? Because sometimes I may not even qualify to that because I may not have the credentials, but I've seen that my advice, the way I interpret things has actually changed people. Sometimes my strength lies in connecting people that are capable to the table with those that need that. Sometimes for you to change people's lives, you may just be the connector. You don't necessarily need to be the person that does it. It's an issue of understanding. That's how we are able to reach out to you and so forth. So I feel I was born to change people's lives. So it may not be based on the capacity or the expertise that I have, but based on my ability to reach out to those that are able to bring it together.
I love that. I've never heard someone say my life's work is to connect people to the table. All of us are so busy trying to bring our table, bring our chairs. That someone's
No,
like,
no, no,
actually,
no,
my
no.
connect people to the table. I love that. Knowing what
Mm.
I know now, I.
Knowing what I know now, Vumi, I, there's something that growth brings to it brings wisdom. You then realize that there's a point where it's not even about you, it's about people. It's not even about, I'm not saying I'm here to solve anyone's big problems and so forth, but the little change that you make, it's actually a game changer. You understand? We don't have the capacity to change all the problems that we see, but you see the little. So knowing what I know, I'm just able then to even play a very much more defined role in society. If you look into Progressive Institute, we have not only just become a company, we have a company that has got a social commitment, a social role that we make to people. It's so amazing. I grew up like one of the things that I would say, because obviously we didn't talk much about what we do, but I remember I grew up. My cousins used to go to Sun City because at the time they would say, Sun City is this place. We grew up in the village. So when I grew up, I was like, you know what? When I grow up, I want to go to Sun City. And indeed, when we went to university, we started going to Sun City from Botswana. It was a big thing. But as I grew, started my company, I was like, you know what? I'm now going to give young people in different schools opportunities to go to Sun City. So every year would nominate the best students in some of the selected schools, would take them, pay for their holiday accommodation in Sun City. You know what? It's like, wow. They'll go with their teachers. Students as far as the northern part of Botswana, 1,000 kilometers from Gaborone, all of a sudden they are going to Sun City. You know what? It created an opportunity for the school to, like other students would then want to compete so that they become the best. The pass rate will go up, and then we'll get feedback from the headmaster. You know what? You have done magic to our results. Ever since we took these kids, the whole school, everyone is now, they feel like they are next. So you see, by we have a chance to make things better. We have an opportunity to make the little change that we can. We are also products of change. So therefore we can also inspire change. So sometimes
I love
the little effort that we make, we may think they are very small, but in reality, someone's life is transformed. If Sun City was a big thing to me, then it's a big thing to someone else. And let's avoid. So that has actually been something we have done. We have made opportunities, taken kids to Sun City,
I just want to
islands
articulate
in
to our
Ponta
listeners,
Duoro.
yeah, I just want to articulate to our listeners who are listening from all over the world and in across the continent. For you to understand Sun City is it is an area. It is a fantastic entertainment and hotel in the middle of the northwest. It's got things like the Lost City. So if you think of Atlantis, it's literally recreated by Sol Kersner. So it's a little heaven in the middle of these mountains. It is gorgeous, and it is definitely a space that would inspire you to want to do more. So if you think of Las Vegas without all the lights, but just pure nature,
Thank you.
a recreated
Thank you.
way, it is absolutely gorgeous. Mmoloki, so my
That
very last question is I'd like you to complete this. I am.
I'm a star.
Yes.
I am a star. You see, growth and success starts with having a full understanding of who you are. You can trust me, and I would say it in the most humblest way possible. I don't want to sound sarcastic or any better, but clearly, self awareness is very, very critical in whatever journey that you want to embark on. As long as you are not self aware, as long as you don't appreciate, then you will always see yourself lacking. It is until I became an entrepreneur that I realized how many problems I was solving for so many people. I became the go-to person in so many issues. Like, our company is HR, consulting, business advisor, and so forth. The number of people that called us, I realized that, look, I'm a star.
I cannot think of a better way to end our conversation. And indeed, Mmoloki, you are a star. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you, Mmoloki.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I would like to thank everybody who is listening, and clearly there's a global village. The world is a global village. We need to don't we shouldn't say this is not relatable. This is from someone from South Africa, Zimbabwe, whoever. Look, as long as it helps you change, listen, watch it, and change. Bye bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, and that can inspire you. You can go from everywhere your mind thinks you can. With that said, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode of Career Conversations with Vumi Msweli. Stay safe, everybody.